on December 7th. So the meeting's called to order, and we'd like to start with introductions and just go around the room, especially because we're always so pleased that Fact TV reports this for the public. And when people watch later, they don't always know kind of who's who. So we have a number of guests with us tonight that we're delighted about. Let's start with you, Deb, with introductions.
Oh, sure. Deb Curtin, WNESU Director of Instruction and Innovation.
Links Primer, Westminster Center Interventionist for Reading.
Hi, everybody. I'm Shelley Wilson. I'm the Director of Student and Family Systems.
I'm Stacey Illingworth. I'm the Reading and Interventionist here at Westminster. Liz Hardy, Principal, Westminster Center School.
Team BLC, Westminster School Board.
Cheryl Charles, Westminster School Board Chair of the Board.
Karen Blanchard, Westminster School Board. Margie Ferry, Westminster School Board.
Nicole Barnett, Administrative Superintendent and Board Recorder.
Andy House, Superintendent.
With that, welcome everybody. Thank you all.
We have Jim on slide.
Yes, we see
Jim, thank you so much. Jim, please introduce yourself.
Jim Zazina, helping out in finance.
And essential. Thank you very much. All right, with that, let me ask for any adjustments to the agenda.
We did have, depending on how the flow we think is gonna go, we can slide 6C up before findings, but.
I would definitely say 6C before the principal's report. I'm not sure how lengthy the finance report's gonna be tonight.
Okay.
Because we have a special meeting of this board focused entirely on the budget. So, Jim, how lengthy is your report tonight, do you think? Oh, you're muted, you're muted.
Who?
Yep, you still are.
Okay, 2.5 minutes.
Okay, so that was my sense that
Perfect.
we'd be okay with that and then go into, so we're moving, the data assessment report up in front of the principal's report. We'll have a brief report on finance from Jim, and then he'll be able to, take care of his throat and all of that.
Thank you.
As well. Thank you. And that's the only, adjustment to the agenda that I see. Thank you, Randy.
And Charlie's joined us.
Perfect. We
Hi.
just have done introductions. Charlie, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Charlie Hutchison, Vice Chair of the Board of the Westminster School Board. Thank you.
Thank
Glad to
you.
be here.
Great. So the next item of business is to ask for any communications and public comment, if there are any. Hearing that, right? So let's take a look at the minutes from November 16th. And if anybody has any corrections, actually, let's just entertain a motion to approve them and then have discussion.
I so moved.
Okay. Any corrections?
No.
I have a couple. So if it's just a small thing on item 5, review and approve minutes, it says October 18th. It should be October 5. The next sentence says that the motion was made to approve October 5 minutes. So just correct that small clerical. And then more substantively, under the old and unfinished business for discussion and action, the solar project update. The second sentence says the report came back regarding the roof, that they're not appropriate for solar panels. It should be corrected to say only the gym roof is appropriate for solar panels. It's not to say that none of the roofs are appropriate. And then to insert a sentence, the gym roof needs repair before it is available for installation of solar panels, because it's about 20 years old. Just so that we've got that in the minutes, so that it documents why we're installing a new roof to slow down the solar installation, and the fact that that roof is able to take the panels. Okay. So there's a motion on the floor. I propose those amendments. So we can take action to approve the minutes as corrected. Let me call Charlie. How do you vote?
I vote yes, aye, Rolla. Hello. I've lost visuals, but never mind. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, yeah.
Oh, there you are. There you go. Found you again. Yes, aye.
Thank you, Marcia. Yes. Okay, Karen, yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay, all right, unanimously approved. How exciting. Okay, so we're gonna go now to the report from Jim Messina on finance. Jim, it's yours.
Okay. I just want to say, it's hard to believe, but we're halfway through, almost the end of this month, halfway through the fiscal year. And when I look at, kind of a projection to bring forward, if you turn to the back of your financial report on page 7, you'll notice that it says there is, under budget balance, there's $759,000. Everybody, page 7, bottom of the page.
So we're on the horizontal, we're on the landscape one, on the very last page.
Yeah, okay. So, got it.
Gotcha.
Okay, yeah, now we're caught up, Jim. Go ahead.
Okay, so that says, 759,000. I want to mention, and Shirley just fixed this today. There's an overstatement of 300,000, that surplus money that was returned. There was some confusion by the accounting that they thought they could balance it within the expenditures. So that 759 is reduced by 300,000. So this just means that if we look at where we're going to be with a surplus for this fiscal year, I think you're going to have between $200,000 and $400,000 of money. We've encumbered and have squared away a lot of the encumberment pieces that we were having trouble with previously. Worker comp was one of them, and it's right on the money now. So the other thing that I just want to point out, and that is on page 2. Towards the end of the bottom of the page, and this is for guidance, the guidance cost. And I just want to mention, this is a projection. When you're doing the budgeting, it's just a projection. You're making a best guess. And people don't like to hear that, but that's exactly what you're doing. Now, we're over here by, $49,000 of money. We budgeted 63, and we're over $49,000. And I'm just saying, it's only because a new person assumed the position, and it's costing you that much more. And we just don't know who's going to leave next year, who's going to take over. And you just got to be able to protect yourself to make sure you've got enough to carry any deficit situations that you run into. Any questions that I can answer for you?
Jimmy, we had a recent conversation between Liz and you and I about her wanting to expend some money that would have exceeded a budget line. And in my view, that was perfectly fine to do, as long as there are monies in the rest of the budget to offset it. Where are we with that issue? You had wanted, I think, some policy guidance from the board.
I feel a little bit, I mean, it's a tricky area because how much is too much? And again, I'm not worried, in the trivial sense of going over the budget, but when we start to go over $5,000, $6,000, again, I feel like it puts me into a situation like I shouldn't be in. And I just feel a little uncomfortable expending that much over. And again, I'm open to any suggestions.
It's inconsistent with practice that I've been used to, where we can go over if the budget overall is fine. Andy wants to make a comment.
Yeah, so with some of the other districts, what we try to, because we're running into similar things, is to say, if it's over $500, I'm asking that I get at least eyes on it to know where it is. And very similar to like a donation that we might get. If we're talking like over $2,000, I think it's something we want to at least alert the board. Not necessarily always for authorization, but at least let the board know, hey, we're gonna be spending over on this line. So then when you look at it, you're just like
Yes,
No.
yes.
shock and awe. So just so we keep that open communication type of thing, so.
Yep.
Right. So we have a special board meeting next Tuesday to work on the budget. Might we have a proposal from Liz and you maybe for the board action on that particular item on Tuesday?
Yeah, I think the confusing part was, I wasn't able to put in any requisitions that would exceed a budget line, which is hard because we have the surplus. So some of my budget lines look over because we purchased things with surplus funds. So it's like, and so I was trying to transfer money from one line to another because I'm going to buy a new nurse's bed and it's under furniture. I have $1,000 in the furniture line. The nurse's bed is $1,025. So I was going to put that money in the nurse's line to take out of that line. So I either am requesting to be able to transfer money, I could take out of lines, or be able to take out of lines up to a certain dollar.
And
over.
I think what happened was some of the other boards had said absolutely no movement of monies from line to line. And
It
so
happened at the last one.
I think Jim and I talked about, we interpret that word as gonna do that blanket, because to try and figure out each district can be confusing.
Correct.
And so, the folks that have been processing things have been coming to me like, hey, this line's gonna be over, are you okay with it? And then I either connect with the principal and then say, okay, or even before, so then they can click the button to allow you to do it, so.
Right.
Right.
That
Yeah.
just doesn't come.
It causes a
Yeah.
little jam in the office because you can't even put in the requisition.
Right.
If the budget line is over. And I think it's specifically difficult in this district because we're dealing with a surplus. There are a variety of lines that are over because of this, because we've been, you
So
know.
I'll speak with Trish and Marlene so we can just streamline that much quicker.
Please, and then bring
Yeah.
it to us.
Yeah.
And so, Jim, then we have this special meeting next Tuesday at 6 o'clock.
Right.
To focus entirely on the budget financial matters. Are you able to join us even by Zoom for that?
Yes, I am. I'll be there.
Okay, great. Okay.
Hopefully I get
So
rid of a cold.
That would be good, yeah. So if there are any other questions for Jim tonight, otherwise we'll put everything off until Tuesday. I think that's financially related. Anything?
No, thank you, Jim.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Feel
All right,
better?
take care. Thank you.
Okay, great. And that then leads us to the data assessment report for the whole team. Thank you.
We're very excited to be here. We have a whole team. Andy's gonna bring up our slides, I think, and while he is doing, and I'm gonna attempt to use this thing, which I am not very used to that. While he's doing that, quick intro, well, you've met these guys, so we don't even need to do that.
Would you introduce them again?
I'm happy to, thank you. That was my plan. So this is Lynx, who is our interventionist here for reading, and Stacy, who's also interventionist, and I think you guys spread your focus by younger, older, or not so much?
No, we actually do all
Both
grades.
all-
There's need of multiple groups for each grade, so yeah. Thank you.
All right, here we go. So we're gonna start off. Our goals today are gonna be to look at our data, to share with you the data, which I know I've sent it ahead of time, but it bears some explanation. The fall being all the way back in September. So this is now a little less current than it would be, and we're getting ready to do a new round of data collection in January. We're gonna share with you some student progress over time. And we're going to talk about how we're using data. So that's really, I think, the more important thing to take away from today is not just the data we're collecting and what does it say, but how are we using data and what are the important pieces that are going to inform our instruction. So that's a big piece of what Lynx and Stacy are going to bring to you. And we're also going to talk about some SEL data, which will be shown. All right. So ELA first, English Language Arts, and I love that we've already kind of had a conversation not too long ago about some of these things. I've been trying to make sure we all have a clear picture of what these things are measuring and what the indicators or colors are representing. So for our MWA EA map, which is measures of academic progress, this is an assessment that measures vocabulary knowledge, informational text reading, literary text reading. It's a computer-based assessment, and that really covers the information that teachers get out of that assessment. They get these categories of skill or knowledge, but it doesn't really get down to any very, very discrete, individualized information. So in that assessment, this is the overarching result. The top line, I tried to capture this in the little bubbles. So the bubbles pointing to the percentage of students who met the expected growth between fall of last year and fall of this year. One thing that I have learned, and it's helpful for me to do these presentations because I learn something about these systems and these representations every time. The yellow color coding is actually considered average in math. And so when we talk about meet and exceed, I think there's also a worthwhile piece to realize that average is not, it's not meeting a benchmark, but it's an average level of growth, which made me feel a little better about some of these measures. The bottom lines are the achievement. So this is school-wide, all of Westminster. So achievement in the fall on the left-hand side, achievement in the fall this year on the right-hand side. Does that make sense to everybody so far? I see some confusion.
Are these numbers a percentage of the whole
Population
population?
of
Okay.
your school. of
Right,
Westminster.
took math.
That
That
took
took the math. Okay, and
That can
so
be-
blue is exceeded,
Mhm.
green is met. Yellow is average, you're saying?
So here's how there's two ways to look at it. One of them, and you'll see those color codings down on the left-hand side.
Yeah.
The way they come up with these colors is, and this is why it's a norm referenced assessment, right? The way they come up with these colors is out of a bell curve, the top 80th percentile and above. So if I'm a kid, if I fall into that 80th percentile of all the kids in the nation and beyond, I'm in the blue.
So it's comparing our data to the nation's data.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, so that's where those colors come from, but then the descriptors that they use have to do with average.
I was just saying, anyone in the nation who took this test.
right. No,
Okay.
the
So like,
whole
it's like a
nation.
50 that.
Could I just add?
Yeah.
This is growth.
Right.
So it's
top
there,
line.
it's not,
Top is
Top
the
is
top is growth, so
Right.
it's not like where they score, it's what the projection of growth and they exceeded what they were projected to
Right.
grow.
Right.
Type of thing, so.
But the second line is competencies and achievement.
Yeah.
And
For
achievement
in
in
relation
relation
to
to both, Andy.
No, I know we're still on the top line, so I'm sorry, I just wanted to.
Bottom's achievement, top growth.
Yeah.
What are the percentages at the beginning? Like that little.
Oh,
29.
the 31st
40.
percent.
Yeah.
That is summarizing our achievement as a school. So
Okay.
as a school, this is my understanding. So if anybody has a different understanding.
So we're in the 31st percentile.
Yes,
Okay.
as a school in regard to our achievement as a school.
And a significant drop from last year.
Yes, and I'm gonna,
Can I just butt in there? So are you really saying we're in the 31st percentile compared to the whole nation?
Are we the 31st percentile compared to the whole nation? in terms
that
of
took the
achievement?
test.
Yeah.
We're not the 31st percentile, we're in the.
Fall in the
31st. We
31st.
fall in the 31st.
So in other words, 70% of the country is doing better than us.
Took the map test.
Yes.
I think that's an important distinction to
Yep,
make,
yep.
because the map test is not taken by every kid in the whole country, right? Like, the kids in my district don't take the map test, that's specific
But of the
to.
ones that did take it, we're in the 31st percentile.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
is that
Okay.
alarming? How do you feel about
Let me give you one little piece that might help us to understand that. Which is
Okay.
that this year we did, so looking at the grade levels, this is by individual grade level. Of which all of these have poured into that full school line portrait, right? Second grade this year, we made an important decision, which was that we moved from you have an option as a second grade, within second grade. You can take this one test where they're read to, You can take another test where they read it themselves. We have historically been using the one that they are read to, which actually goes against what MAP suggests. So this year we made a very big decision, hard one, to move to what MAP is actually suggesting. And the reason is because then they can continue in that assessment up through 5th grade and we'll be able to track their growth. So that's doesn't feel to us and to teachers and to principals as a real representation of what our kids can do. It was a big leap for them. Okay.
Even so, our best score was 51 percentile.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And again, I want to emphasize that how we're using our data becomes a, I think, an important piece, because if we look at this, it's disheartening. Disheartening to see levels of like this where kids are not reaching the level of achievement that we feel they are in our classrooms. And we can't necessarily use this information. It's that 30,000 foot view again, right? We can't use this to direct our instruction. So we're really working to move toward information that gives us a path forward. And I know I've talked to you guys about this image before, right? And I've talked with you about how we have these two areas we focus on, that word recognition area below, and then that language comprehension above. We're attacking pretty aggressively the word recognition element to make sure our kids know how to take words off the page. And so we really are in our first year, this year, district-wide, school-wide, of an implementation plan where instruction, first instruction for every student is happening at that level in school. But it really started after these assessment results came in, right? So we're hopeful to see what we see soon. So the other measure that we're using that we really feel we get much more information from is called DIBELS. And I should have put the breakdown on there. It's Dynamic Indicator of Basic Early Literacy Skills, which is a mouthful, but it's measuring these other pieces. All of these pieces, let's see if I go back. If you see under word recognition, sounds, letters, words, those individual skills, we get information about those individual skills from this measure. So we're using DIBELS very diagnostically. The other thing about our DIBELS measures is they are interfaced. They are one-to-one assessment. We sit one-to-one with kids one at a time to get this information. They're not on a computer. So there's not that question of, do they know how to use a computer? The information we get here, so you'll see there's a composite score at the top, and that's the combination of all mini skills, all the sub skills. Not so, and then let me just describe. So 20, what I did was pulled the overarching school-wide vision of 21-22, 22-23, and 23-24. What this is measuring, a little bit different than math, it's not achievement. DIBELS is designed to measure risk. And that comes from understanding that if we catch kids early, we can identify kids at risk of reading difficulties early. And so we use these measures to identify that risk as early as possible and intervene. So when we look at that red is an indicator of high risk, not necessarily poor achievement in the same way when we're looking at the map, right? Again, that yellow, let me give a quick overview of those two colors. The yellow is considered some risk. And what DIBELS says about that is we're not sure. They might be at risk, but based on what they've shown us with their sub skills, we're not really sure. So we really are focusing on minimizing those at-risk, high-risk students over time. And if you look at this slide, then I'll pause. The composite at the top, which is all of your school, doesn't look like there's much motion, but when we break it down into individual skills, like the second one, which is the phonological awareness, we targeted that pretty strongly last year. You can see from 2021 to now, we have minimized some risk. And that's really what we're aiming for, is to minimize students at risk related to differences. Go ahead.
What's your sense of how many schools are using DIBELS?
It's a very widely used nationwide, same thing, it's compared to national norms, yes. I would say,
okay.
yeah.
It's a good.
It's a good.
It's a
Tina
good one.
Boots.
Is it? Yeah.
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 It's been around for years and years. It's the, I would say it's the, it's got the cornerstone on the market. That's the way to say it. Like it's,
So when we're
Very
seeing
wide.
these numbers,
Yeah.
like they have their categorization of numbers. Their categorization of risk is based upon a large knowledge base that covers the whole US.
yes,
Okay.
yes. And I would say this is probably the most widely used measure at this point.
Okay.
Um. Anything else? Just, keep going. That's right. Yeah. Another, so an example of first grade, right? Here's first grade from 21-22 to 23-24. And then looking at that, you don't see much difference, but when you look at that phonological awareness score, you see a bigger difference. I move to the next. The different lengths is because there are some kids moved.
Deb, I have a
27.
question.
Yeah.
Deb,
ahead.
that's a different group of children going from 22, 3 to 23, 4. How is that worth comparing? Wouldn't we
These are
better wouldn't we be more useful to see first grade in 22, 23 and second grade in 23, 24 to see how they
Yes.
change?
Thank you. That is exactly what you're looking at. You are looking at, and that's why it's kind of wonky with these individual strips, because I went in
Oh, I
and
see.
pulled. This is the same set of kids,
Oh, good.
1 year to the next. The reason the number is different from 27 to 30, that number on the right is the number of kids, is because some kids must have moved in.
I see. Got it. Thank you.
Keep going. So here's another example of second grade. And as kids move up through the grades, the actual sub skills that we measure are associated with their growing skill in reading.
Can we go back one?
Yes.
Sorry.
Sure.
But on the bottom one, phonological awareness,
Yeah.
it appears that there is more risk.
Now, when you look at the green or the blue. utility and green,
Yeah. You're right. The high risk kids, what does that number say?
6.
And the year before was
3.
And so whether that was the three
The
kids that
3 new
moved in, we
ones.
don't know.
Okay.
But
Some kids could backslide too.
and some kids
Yeah,
backside, yeah.
Okay, all right.
But we have a greater
Yes.
number of kids who are proficient, either
Green and blue.
Right.
Yeah, I got you.
Who are
Okay.
not
Yeah.
shrunk the other.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we've erased
Quite a
some
lot.
high.
Yeah.
some-
Correct. That's a lot.
That's a good thing to point out, you're right.
right.
This is just to illustrate, as the kids move up through the grades, are the skills that we're measuring are changing. So this, as they move into second grade, is we start really looking closely, do they know their letters and sounds? So as an example of over time, this same group of kids, now they're in second grade, right here. And we're seeing risk, which is concerning, a large number of kids at risk. And if we break it down, we can see, there's some letter sound risk. There's kids with letter sound issues there. And that's what we're targeting. And Liz brought up a great point when we talked about this data. We haven't had a reading program in place for quite a long time, and the one we did not address any of the decoding skills. So,
It actually did the opposite.
yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
This one confuses me and concerns me though, because this is a case where it does look like we've
Yes.
increased the risk
Yes.
substantially. Is that, am I reading it correctly?
You are. And so I put this here on purpose because we're not out of the woods, right? This is,
Mhm.
and all of these for every grade are at the end of this slide deck. I moved them around once I saw Cheryl's message, but, yes.
That's fine, yeah.
we are concerned about the second grade, that group of second graders. You're gonna hear an example of what is happening, the kinds of work we're doing with those kids. So this gives us that information
Mhm.
of what to target.
To help the
It's
diagnosis.
interesting to me that after like COVID, actually, I don't know about the 21, 22 and whether, all I'm wanting to say is that there's always been this thing. So that made sense, but all of a sudden to have 23, 24. So there was a reduction and then there was an expansion, trying to figure out in a way what happened there. Would be,
And the expectation gets higher, right? Every year that a kid might grow and still fall into that red category because we expect them to grow further,
yeah,
right? So it doesn't mean no growth. This is again, a little bit like 10,000. All right. So what do we do? Right? When we dig in and we look at we're looking at those ropes, I'm gonna turn it over to Lynx, and Lynx is gonna talk about, this is an example.
If I go up and
students.
point,
Sure.
I'm a very. All right, so this is a picture of one of my lower grade students. They really, as you can see at the beginning of the year, as far as correct letter sounds within a timed assessment in Dibbles, only had 10 sounds in a minute. Coming into this grade, and this one, and only could read whole words at 2 words a minute, and get all the sounds correct. So this targeted focus, their intervention goals to teach more letters and sounds and how they apply to blending and decoding. The PD work that we did at the beginning of the year delved into Phonics First, which is a fabulous program that really focuses on these deficit skills, the lower level reading skills that you need before you can move on to the upper level skills. So as we've been going, this is where they tested at the beginning of the year. This is where they tested when we actually started intervention. So there had already been some growth. And then all these other dots are every 2 weeks, I tried to take an assessment of how are these kids progressing? Like how far can I get them? This particular student's goal is 38. That was based on what Dibbles projected based on where they started, where they should end up at the end of December. So that was the goal and already is at 37. So it's super, super exciting. I'm sure you noticed this wonky dip here.
That was probably
This-
Halloween.
This wonky dip, it's on both. Yes, it was, she came in, she's having a rough day. And I was like, let's get the assessments done. And then I felt really bad because she felt really bad. And I was like, okay, take a deep breath, Reed. You want to try it again? And she's like, yeah. And so she did. And then we see her true colors coming in with growth again. So that was very
So that's
exciting.
the same day assessment?
That was the same day because the first one I knew.
Yeah, no, I'm just.
Yeah,
Okay.
I knew she wasn't ready for that to really show me what she could
That's
do.
an interesting.
It shows the difference with
Very
motivation.
Yeah, very, very. So we work on particularly in the phonics system, we work on teaching the skills of reading mostly at this grade level, letters and sounds. And then how can we stick them together? What if I mix them up? Can you still read it if it was a word? So they really have to recognize spelling patterns and how to break those sounds down before they can squish them back together to make whole words. This is what it looks like in Panorama because I only post the scores every 2 weeks. So you can see consistent growth. 17 is where this kid was when we started. After about 2 weeks, up to 29. After another 2 weeks-ish, up to 31, and then up to 37. And the difference between this 10 and this 17 is a little bit, that was probably like a 4-week period. 2 of those weeks, I did do a push-in group, kind of an unofficial pushing group where we hadn't really figured out where these kids needed to be grouped. We didn't finish all those smaller diagnostic things that we needed to do. And so we kind of like were feeling out this grade level. So we worked in the class for about 2 weeks prior to this testing here. So I'm very excited about what we've been working on and how we can specifically address these needs and the growth that we've seen generally across the board. And this is a student who doesn't have attendance and behavior issues, which is nice. They're not all like that, but we love them. This is also a breakdown of what it looks like. Strategies that I use specifically are phonics 3-part drills, dictation, reading fluency, phonemic awareness skills, and multisensory activities. And again, the whole focus of most of this stuff, especially the 3-part drill, is just building that automaticity so that they can read more fluently. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Does every child in the school get this individual attention, or is it only at the help of
These are the students who we've identified when we're back
Correct.
here. We've identified them as at risk.
Yeah.
We dig in and utilize diagnostic assessments to then target their instruction. And what she's pointing out at the bottom is us closely monitoring their progress. If we see that dip and that dip continues, we change what we're doing.
So only those in the red are the ones that you.
That's where we start.
Okay.
I do have some yellow students who there wasn't a lot of need within that grade level to have reds. But there were still some deficit in skill that I wanted to target to really make sure they honed before they moved on in grade levels. So we do have yellows too. We try to work with the lowest deficit skill needs students, and we squeeze them in as tight as we can pack them in our day.
These ladies run.
My eyes are crossed at the end of every day.
If I could just clarify, how often does the whole school get reassessed?
3 times a year.
3 times a year?
Yeah.
Or upon request.
And I was gonna ask, what could trigger a student? For a teacher or whatever, what
Yeah.
might trigger a student, or a teacher to say, hey, I think we may need to take a deeper dive?
Before the 3 times. Is that what you're
Yeah.
saying? Yeah, so that's a great question. We have monthly data meetings. So monthly, we are sitting down and looking at this data together, and monthly teachers have that opportunity to bring that up. They've got classroom instruction assessments and data that we look at. So if a kid is showing certain things in the classroom, that is at the table as well. We'll have one of those.
There was
I
a middle
want to
grade.
point out that
student-
we're not just focusing on kids,
Oh,
all
yeah.
kids are always being
Yep.
focused
Yeah.
on.
Even
It's just the
today,
deep
there,
dive is on the reds.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Even today, there was a student who tested yellow at the beginning of the year. And I worked with them for the first 2 weeks, but then they showed such amazing growth. We figured the first test was a fluke. But was still kept it on our radar. And the teacher just said, do you mind just checking in again? And now we're seeing a little bit more of a decline. So now we're discussing how we're going to reabsorb this child into our groups so they are still functional and we address her needs.
And what we're looking at right now in the monthly data meetings is student work, like student actual things that they're doing in the classroom are data, just like these are data, right? How they're performing. on a daily basis. All right, Stacy,
All right,
thank you so much.
That's okay.
Okay,
Okay,
yep.
so this is an example of an upper elementary student profile. And as Deb mentioned, in the fall, we do our DIBELS and MAPS assessment. And you can see that this student was well below in their oral reading fluency. So what we do here is we go into what Deb mentioned about more diagnostic. And if you look on our WNSE page, under curriculum, Deb has a great layout. I encourage you to take a look, like at grade level. Okay, if we're seeing this, what assessment are you going to do diagnostically? I don't have them all here. I have one of them is the fall spelling inventory assessment that we do in addition to that we did in addition to the DIBELS in the fall. Okay, so we know that this student was well below in oral reading fluency. And we see that there's some spelling also skills that we need to work on. So this targeted goal was increase reading and spelling of words with more complex letter combinations to meet the targeted fourth score. Just to let you know, the spelling inventory assessment starts from basic spelling skills and it gets to more complex. There's 26 words. And of course, if we're seeing they're frustrated or need to stop, we would stop that assessment.
Everybody takes.
Yeah, everyone. What was I gonna say? Okay, I also progress monitor every 2 weeks. As you can see, this is showing the DIBELS. I'm doing an oral reading fluency. So we're seeing, because I'm targeting explicit from my diagnostic assessments, spelling of words with more complex reading letter combinations. So the student is spelling them as well as reading them in passages. We're seeing growth in their oral fluency as well as the student's oral accuracy. So this has been a great success story. This up here is their attendance, and then this is in Panorama. That's their SEL behavior. So I have not had any. The student has been working hard. That I also when we assess, this student helps graph it on their specific page, and this student has been so proud, asked to bring it home last Friday. So very proud. I don't have any questions. I feel like
That's great.
okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I
want to
can
say
read
something? I just think that's really
I mean, that in particular, that accuracy piece, like that is so important to go from 78% accuracy to 100% accuracy. That's like That's the first most important thing. That's just really nice data, Stacy.
So a question though, I don't understand the behavior piece up there, and this is one student, right?
This is our reconnection, so, 11 means that they were referred to our reconnection room 11 times, and that all gets into Panorama as well. So if you look up any student in Panorama, you'll get a whole summary of their data from SEL to academic to attendance.
So not an issue for you, you said, with this student.
No.
But overall, the student has been referred to the reconnection room 11 times since the beginning of the school year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And we
That makes
meet
sense.
every
Yeah.
Friday and look at that data and talk about specific students who are popping up, having increased behaviors and how you can. support them.
Okay.
Has anybody noticed whether the behavior, let's see, so this is 11. But was it like 7 until they felt that they succeeded? And I mean.
Yeah,
by
I'm not
looking at
sure.
time.
I don't know.
In other words, whether the behavior has changed because they feel empowered by what they're learning.
That's
I'm
what
just
we
curious.
hope. We hope
Yeah.
that's true.
But there's no way to assess.
I know.
I did look,
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Stacey. or
Okay,
Jill.
Especially if they have a specific behavior plan that is being tracked during the day.
Yeah.
So we are seeing increase, yes,
Yeah.
there's any that of this or less.
Less, I'm
Referrals.
saying, that's right,
Yeah.
less referral could.
Yeah.
What you're not getting here is that 11 the first week of school?
Right.
Yeah.
Or is it
Right. No, that's,
continuing,
yeah,
right?
that's,
Yeah.
They
I
can
mean, we
dig down
can look
much,
at that.
they can dig down very deeply into that. That's what they do on those weekly meetings.
right.
those monthly-
I was just
Yeah.
curious because of that, of, teens mentioning, amazing growth, right, in that way. And then I was trying to figure out how behavior might have changed.
Right, or, where they're 10 and then he had a specific behavior plan and now it's been less, right? So I'm wondering those
I'm
things.
just
too.
wondering.
Yeah.
Not a-
But what's amazing is that we have a group of people working on that as well. Right?
Oh, that's cool.
Totally. The student was struggling that way. All right, what's happening? Yeah, you've heard a lot. I will say these, the interventionists in our schools are almost solely responsible for the data that we have collected this year so far. That very heavy lift, and so it's been pretty amazing to have that kind of information at their fingertips, and it's really nice to them. We will be sharing that load over time with the rest of the school, but it's been really great. So we have, as I said, implemented an evidence-based wordsmith programming in K through 6 classrooms. So K through 3rd has one focusing on the lower skills with decoding, and then the 4th through 6th are program called rewards, and we're spreading that across those 3 years, focusing on suffixes and more complex kind of word study skills. Like they mentioned, we've got the intervention programming. The monthly data meetings are in formation this year. It's a new thing to sit down monthly together, and it's been pretty great. Those 3 times where we look at big data, but the times in between where we're really digging in, looking at small groups and student work has been really rich. Every K to 3rd grade teacher and our interventionists are all being trained with the Stern Center. You know this, I think I've shared this with you before. We're in the midst of that, and our next real big work is going to be those upper strands. So it doesn't stop. I want to emphasize that at word study. That's just what we attacked first. There is this whole other world of building knowledge and building skill with actually understanding what we read. So that'll be our big task next year. I'm gonna move a little more quickly through math.
I'll talk it. I'll
Team. Yeah, team can jump in. We are, I'd say we're about a year behind in math where we are, you'll see in that we are right now this year identifying our tools to utilize for assessments. So again, we're back to math, right? Math with math, measures operation, algebraic thinking, geometry, statistics, number systems. That's the categories of information we get. Again, computer-based. Here's that slide, similar to the one we looked at earlier, with our math achievement. Growth at the top, achievement at the bottom. Not our favorite, and not a lot of information that our elementary schools find useful to derive their instruction. So what we've moved from with that, I put the individual grades in here to give you a sense. There is something funny with 5th grade. And I don't have an answer for that at this moment. Other than to say, similar to literacy, we're working to solidify our math programming. Tell us.
I think it's probably, there is the not putting it on the program, but I'm going to at the same time. The program that was used previously is very weak in fractions. And one of the big things they're looking at in 5th grade is like the foundational fraction skills. And so I bet they were tested on that, and I bet the students showed poor results. And that is, 5th grade is like the year of culminating kind of fractional knowledge. And so I bet it has to do with fractions. That would be my there.
I was gonna say.
Yeah.
What are we doing? How are we addressing this? And what kind of tools are we using? So the foundation, again, I have really driven what we're doing from my work with Teen, to be totally honest. Teen and Lily, who were Southeast and taught me a lot. So we are utilizing a different assessment tool for getting diagnostic information. It's considered a screener, but it gives us all this information. So this is just an example of a 1st grade class. Across the top is their achievement. And then the graph you're looking at is that group, the 1st grade, broken down by those skills on the left. So that first number 1 relates to the task they're asked to do is count to 22. These kids struggled in that area. So we know we have some work to do with counting, first and foremost, with that small group in math. There's a bigger, we can go and look at this one, which corresponds with 8 covering 2, so subtraction. And more of the class or more of the grade struggled with that. So then we know, oh, as a grade level, we're going to target that. So it's really helping teachers and interventionists target their instruction the same way we're doing. This is an example of an individual kid. You saw the similar wheel on Stacy's work, and this gives us each of those little blocks represents a skill. So we can dig in individually to individual kids, and that is what our math interventionists and our math classroom teachers are becoming knowledgeable in. It's a lot of data literacy this year to really wrap brains around. What are we doing with math? So K-6, we're implementing a math screener, like I just showed you. Teachers are piloting a new program, and we're getting feedback on that right now. So illustrative math is, again, one that came from what I saw in Southeast. And so far I hear just great things from teachers. Very hands-on, very student-driven. What else to say about it?
It's very much about like students making sense of the math that they're doing and solving things in a way that makes sense to them, and then making the connections about like what are the big ideas of math that we're
Good job. And we have ALN All Learners Network trainings. Every professional development day, they're here for the whole day. We have a coach from All Learners Network working closely with teachers. And then again, those monthly data meetings really big to student learning. So that's the end of the academic. It's not stated on.
We're just gonna say to everybody, this is incredibly important. We're about 35 minutes into this. I want to make sure you guys are comfortable with this great opportunity.
Oh, yeah.
And she's not doing that.
Oh, yeah, right. I'm not going
And I think we can move through a lot of our other items more quickly than usual. So thank you for being.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'll move quickly. I think that, I'm mindful of the time. So thank you so much for having me to come. This is my first time at Westminster. So Shelley Wilson, my new job title this year is Director of Student and Family Systems, which is just a change in semantics around all the sort of hats I hold here in our district. Right now, I'm working as the District 504 coordinator to serve students with disabilities who are not eligible for special education. I'm working on getting our district EST, educational support teams, up and running. So that has a lot of crossover with the academic data that you saw just now presented. And I'm also tasked with helping to implement Panorama with Deb district-wide. And I'm going to talk just a smidge about that when I go forward, because via Panorama, one of the things that it does as a tool for our district is to help us administer surveys, which gives us really important information about how students and families are feeling about the work that we're doing. So the data I'm going to present to you here is from last May.
last school year, 22-23 was our first year where we administered our climate survey via Panorama. And it was, we learned a lot. We're gonna do some adjusting going into this year, especially with the family survey, which we did in May. It was a little late. Our participation rates were a little low. You'll see that as I present the data. And we'll be doing that again, hopefully in March, to coincide with the parent-teacher conferences that come up. So we've got a plan to increase that participation. Panorama, we're using it. It does so much, and I very jokingly refer to it as a, a Ferrari, and sometimes we're just still trying to get it into gear, right? But this year, I feel really good about our implementation and using all the great tools that it offers us. So when the interventionists were talking about their particular programs, you saw that number for behavior, right? And we did very briefly mention, well, how does that fit in? I know we're short on time, but I could do a whole, presentation for you about what we do with that data. We collect it through a program called Swiss. And then as Liz mentioned, as part of our MTSS system, we have weekly meetings called CARES, where we use Panorama. And that is our data source where we look at kiddos with behavior referrals and we group them. It gives us similar data, like these kids are critical, these kids are at risk, these kids are doing okay. And so it gives us as a group, Liz and I are there, the school counselor, our clinician, our home to school liaison, our Judy, who's in the turnaround room, and sometimes other people when we're getting a little more sophisticated in our practices around like inviting different team members as appropriate. One of the things Deb and I are always talking about and thinking about are how to make sure that the data meetings, Deb has those monthly data meetings with classroom teachers. I'm having the weekly CARES meetings with different teachers, but how do we make sure all the teachers have that same information? And Panorama is part of that sharing process because the teachers, classroom teachers, have access to the kids in their room. And so you said data literacy. I loved that expression. We're improving our data literacy for social emotional learning as well. And we're getting better all the time at making sure we're making those decisions based on the data in front of us. So I just wanted to put in that plug for why we like using Panorama. I'll let you read the specific pieces. Am I going the right way?
Yep.
Is it the big one?
Yeah.
Okay. So much like the DIBELS assessment and the MAP assessment, Panorama also works with over 10 million. They serve districts across the country. It's about 10 million students, and the surveys, the results that we're going to look at, are normed as well. And so that's one of the nice features. And the results I'll show you compare our students here at Westminster and our district students to other districts in the country who are also taking the same survey. So that's what that normative data is based on. Oops. Okay, so why? Here's just a little rationale for the surveys. First and foremost, we do have an agency of ed requirement to do a yearly climate survey for both students and parents. So this is a nice tool that helps, to do that for us, and also gives us that norm reference data. Obviously, once we have the data, we use it to do a bunch of things. It helps our district level strategic planning. It helps to drive the school level continuous improvement planning that schools are required to complete every year. Obviously, it identifies more areas for attention, support, and intervention, and gives us general information about student health and well-being and how students are feeling about school. Not to put you on the spot, Liz, but I know that you've used the Panorama survey data at your staff meeting for whole staff communication.
Yeah,
well, right?
so we used the students' data last spring to make decisions on our year-long PD this year. So it's really what drove our decision to focus on explicit instruction strategies and engagement practices, which we do every half day. Yeah,
PD cycle and a PLC cycle right along those strategies.
And so many schools in the district, if not all of them, are also using that data in that way, which is exciting because, you know, it's something that we may not have been able to do as explicitly before. Okay, so who did we survey? We surveyed families and students. And what did we ask them? The categories in the panorama survey are listed here. I won't read them to you because I know I'm moving fast. On the right-hand side, the survey is that we did is for students grades 3 and up. So you're going to see results for your 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. K 1 and 2 is not included, just an important point. There is a way that we can get survey data on those students, but we ask the teachers. It's called the Teacher Perception of Student Survey. And I think we need to make a decision pretty fast if we're going to do that this year or not. So more to come on that. We had about 30 families respond, so that's a rate we'd like to get way up. Obviously, this year it was about 21% of the total number of students. I know families and students don't correlate exactly, but that was the data from that point in time. And then the student participation rate, again, students might have been absent, etc. the day the survey happened, but it was a pretty high rate, about almost 94% of the students eligible to take that survey took it. This just breaks down a little bit more. These are definitional. And again, because you have the slideshow, I won't read them to you. I usually talk about them a little bit more in depth, but just by way of example, do the first one. So when you see school belonging, Panorama defines that as how much students feel they're valued members of the school community. So each of these topics are broken down, a little bit more for you here. Engagement, safety, and climate. A little note here is all survey instruments have their little definitions. A lot of these results are presented in a term called percent favorable. So what that means is explained here. Down below is an example question. How excited are you about going to this class? So there's like a 5-point, what do they call it? A Likert, different choices. And so if a student answered very excited or quite excited, that is counted in the percentage of favorable responses, right? So it's like the top 2 get you that higher, that's the score you want, so to speak. And, there's somewhat excited, which doesn't count towards favorable. That's kind of neutral, right? Slightly excited or not at all excited. So you can refer back to this when you're looking at that data a little more deeply. Okay, so here's the results for students in grades 3 through 5. Another point, which is, not awesome, but we can't change it, is that Panorama also there's a division between grades 5 and 6. So grades 6 and 12, grades 6 through 12 are lumped together. The survey questions change. They're a little more sophisticated. And so there is a break between the 6th grade and your 5th grade, which is just something to know. So the highest score here was in the feelings of school belonging. And I just listed them in descending order for you. And so that result in the middle is the percentage favorable of all of those topics. On the right, you can see how this is how your 3rd through 5th graders fall when compared to all the other kids in the country in that age band that took the same survey.
Explain that a little bit more in the grids, for example.
Sure. So let's take rigorous expectations. So that score, the second one from the top, that score of 64% falls between the 0. I don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
It falls in that lowest percentile when compared to other schools that took this same survey, children who took the same survey. So that's a score that's a survey result we'd like to see improve. There's an area of improvement, right? And yeah, hopefully I answered your question.
and when you break this down even more, there is a way to go there. You can see where that 64 on a bell curve, like
Yes,
where it hit.
Yeah.
It might be close to moving like the 20th percentile, like 65% might be the 20th percent. Not to say 20th percentile is good, but I'm just saying like, you can see where the bell curve is. In that. So,
Basically, the kids don't think the school is rigorous. And comparative to the country, most kids in other schools think that their schools are rigorous.
I would say
yeah, I'm not.
36% of the kids do not feel the school is great.
I also want to share that this, I think I had a misunderstanding about the survey too that was given. It was given during our library time, and I was under the understanding that we weren't restating questions, that we weren't explaining words with the questions. We were just like, well, this is the survey, you have to take it. I don't know why I didn't connect that. So my apologies. So my wonder is, do they know what rigorous means? So it'll be interesting because we'll change our practice for this year and that will change. But also, this was the exact snapshot that our leadership team used to design our PD this year, in thinking kids feel like they belong here, but they're not necessarily engaged in their academics, right? So isn't that strange? Because usually they say, well, when the kids are engaged, or when they feel like they're belong, they engage in their academics. So that's why we really focused on engagement strategies of exclusive instruction this year. So yes, we're using this data. It's not lovely, but it's definitely an area of growth and where we can learn from.
And I think it'll impact both your academics
Oh, yeah.
and, right, like it's,
totally.
it has such a far-reaching, what they're doing. has such
Yeah, oh,
far-reaching-
totally. Yep.
So in the short time that Liz answered your question, one of the nice things about Panorama is that I logged in and I can go in. This is the very high level view of your survey data. I can go into that question, press a button and get a breakdown of all of the particular questions. And just like the academic data, when you break that overall subject area down, there's a lot of variability. There is a question that says, when you feel like giving up, how likely is it that your teachers will make you keep trying? 86% of kids responded favorably. That's a great answer. And again, you can go in and see the normative data on that answer as well. So there's a lot of great information here where we can really drill down, and Liz can lead her staff through that. And we do it at the district level as well. Let's dig down into these questions. And I see, how much do your teachers encourage you to do your best? 71% responded favorably. Those are great answers. And then, there's also inter-district, no, that's the wrong term, inter-school comparison, like we have district averages, and so there's ways to look at that. But yes, obviously those overall scores, those would be things we'd hope to improve. And I do appreciate that Liz sharing that point. It was our first time, right? And it wasn't like an exam where you're not allowed to say what rigorous means, right? So we're gonna improve on those practices. How can I get back to the slideshow? Yeah, I need this thing. Thank you. Okay, data for grades 3 through 5. I'm going to move on. Here's the data for grade 6, which is a little lower. As kiddos get older, some of those feelings may change. Interestingly, rigorous expectations almost becomes the highest score. And again, yes, we want these to all be 100%, right? But we have, learning curve, first time doing the survey. And again, remember, we can dig down into each of these and find, the right spots that are there and where kids are really strong, replying strongly in a negative fashion.
What's interesting here to me about the 6th grade about belonging is much less than the other grades. And, also they're heading off. I'm sort of, wondering about that sense of things, about whether or not they're actually pulling back.
Was
You
May
know,
of sixth grade.
What?
So you wonder.
So this is
May
like-
of
yeah,
sixth grade, so you wonder.
Yeah. They're like preparing themselves.
That's
to
what I'm,
be-
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right, and I'm wondering about that, because they're thinking, somewhere. this is
There's
not
also
us.
huge variability between cohorts.
Well, and you notice exactly bullet point 4, which is again, this is just my noticings about your data, very just sort of high level overview. Significantly different results.
Yeah.
Were reported in school belonging, again, defined by, Panorama defines it as how much students feel they're valued members of the school community across grade level bands. And again, you've got some vocabulary there, value, like, are we clear on what feeling valued means, right? Like there is some, there are some concepts there that we want to make sure students understand.
And I think where a lot of the power of this whole thing will come is in years of we continue to use it, then we can go back and you can compare
Yes.
this year's sixth grade versus last year's sixth grade. If you still continue to see similar trends,
Yeah.
then
That's right.
that tells you something. If you see all of a sudden,
Yeah.
that's an anomaly, then you can kind of say, okay, that's an anomaly and we move on. But, we constantly see a trend that sixth graders don't feel like they belong. That informs the
Yeah.
school of, oh, we're not doing something, but we gotta change something.
We're asking them what's going on.
Right,
Right,
right.
right, exactly. I do want to accentuate some real positive points in the Westminster data. School safety and school belonging, those were areas at or above the 60th percentile compared to all the other schools that also take this data. So that's certainly something to celebrate. Grade 6, those scores were a little lower, but in the area of school safety, that was at or above the 40th percentile. So again, school safety, I think, was the highest rated in both of those age level cohorts. And that's something for us to feel good about, right? That kids, when compared to others in the country, are feeling safe at school. We noticed, number 3, favorable results were lower in grade 6, as I think Teen pointed out, right? There's a lot of variability between those age, that's a jump in age and all the things that are going on for those kiddos. And, what we noticed about the data is school engagement, defined as how attentive and invested students are in school, is an area of focus and improvement. And Liz has talked about how she's addressing that. Moving on, any questions quickly? I am trying to move fast, but I'm happy to do a question. Anybody? Okay. So the family survey was done in May, and I spoke to how we're going to do that a little earlier this year, and we're going to try to make sure that barriers to taking the survey are not a problem by having computers available for families to take it. Maybe there's a QR code, people can do it on their phone. So we're gonna really try to amp up our advertisement, about that survey. Yeah.
I know this sounds crazy, but honest to God, the word climate is confusing.
Mhm.
I am not in the school zone, I have kids in school, but
Yeah.
when I got the first email, it doesn't say, it was like, fill out the climate survey, and I'm like, what the? This climate survey, it feels nice warm today,
Yeah.
Honest to God, that was my
Because I've
first.
been doing a lot with that.
It's climate change is
Yeah.
so on the top of the news.
Right. Yeah, I think
That
that's
word.
excellent.
Some people might not have answered it.
I
Yes,
did,
right.
I didn't.
Yeah,
Margie
Like,
did.
I'm good with the climate. I don't even know if I did. Fill this
I
out.
just wanted to stop raining.
Yeah.
I did. I did.
You guys who are in the world that hear the school
Yeah.
climate, but we don't.
Yeah.
The normal public.
Yeah, we could, I think we can
How do you
absolutely
feel about
rebrand
school?
it.
Family
Yeah,
and
how do you
youth
feel
survey.
about school?
Yeah.
Exactly.
How do you feel?
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
No, I think that feedback's excellent. Noted.
Never would have.
Yeah, no, I mean, yes. So, similar, topics for the families, now barriers to engagement, that one's a little tricky. When you see the results, it's like, a higher result is better, although the first time I looked at it, I wanted that score to be low, but you actually want it, you want the barriers to engagement to be high. I'll try to explain that in a second. these are just the definitions for you. Barriers to engagement, school safety, school fit, school climate, oops, again, there's that climate word again, and family engagement, the degree to which families become involved with and interact with their child's school. So, the data was great. And I think this is, yeah, this is, I think this is, I love ending with this because these are very good normative, this is great normative data. You know, an area, so that family engagement score at first looks really low, but then again, family engagement is an issue everywhere, right? And so when compared to other like schools, you are actually not like, you're in a percentile that's favorable. Yeah, no, that's a lot to, I think that's a lot to be very proud of. And speaks to, I don't know, whenever I come here, I feel awesome. Even if I'm coming here to deal with a problem. I mean, it's just like, this is a great place to be. And I think that's showing in your data, and hopefully we'll get more of the same. Again, some nice things to point out. Families.
It says Rockingham.
Whoops.
Not really.
No, this is your data.
Okay,
That's just my, my mistake, and I'll literally fix it as I finish this.
The rest of that looks right.
Yes, yeah, families reported favorable results in all survey areas at or above the 60th percentile in when compared to national norms in all of the areas measured. Nice piece of data, 100% of the people that responded said that getting their child to school or getting their child to school safely was not a concern to them. One of the other hats I wear in the district is as the McKinney-Vento coordinator liaison. So I work with families who are homeless or housing insecure, and I'm always hearing about transportation challenges. So that, I mean, again, was not reported, and doesn't mean there aren't transportation challenges, but at least it wasn't a glaring issue for us to be looking at. When compared to the rest of our data and other schools, Westminster scored above our averages.
In the SU.
Yep, in the SU. So that's something to be very proud of. And then so I was trying to find something to work on, and I pulled out, you know, again, and this is something Liz can do as well, you know, just pulling out a nugget. So 7% of families report they met in person with their child's teachers once a month or weekly. You know, is that something we want to make higher? Would that be a goal, right? It is a lot.
Yeah, you can't do that too. That's a lot.
I guess it depends
like
on how you look at it.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the conclusion of this survey data. I didn't go as fast as I wanted, but I'm happy, again, if any other follow-up questions come up, please feel free to email me, and I'm happy to answer them, and I'm excited to keep using that tool. And do you want to speak to the additional slides, or?
Well, they're just there. That was me trying to hone in on.
We had lots
narrow,
more.
yes. So everything that was there when you first looked is now linked there. So those are each links that'll take you to those slides.
Are you gonna send this version to us?
It's the
then?
same version. Oh, I just rearranged.
Okay.
So what you received will look a little differently when you dig in there.
Okay.
Anything that you can't see that you saw before is like
Maybe I
there.
can talk to someone. For some reason, I couldn't open it.
I know why. I almost emailed you and I thought maybe you put that. You were trying to get in there on your Gmail. So you have to go into
No,
your.
I came through I have apps on my phone that
Yeah.
are my mail for here,
Mhm.
and I went there to try to open it.
Yeah.
And so often people ask for permission to get in, and it's not because I'm using my Gmail.
It has something to do with the way ours is set up. That if you're logged in somewhere else in the backside in your regular Gmail, you have to close that out so that it can be logged into the WN.
And
I can show you.
all the time, and I get.
If you and I did it on your phone, because I know exactly what happened, and it came to me saying so-and-so's Gmail. So somehow your phone's playing something tricky, but I think I could help you if you and I.
Okay, that's fine.
I know.
I'll come to you.
Yeah.
But I get everybody else's. This is what's interesting.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, I don't know.
Every now and then I don't get you know, Andy's, but mostly I get Andy's. I get Nicole's all the time. I get Cheryl's all the time. I get any responses. I get Liz's. So I don't know, you know, it was maybe it's unusual. It was just being irritatingly bad. My fault.
So let's do a quick check-in with Charlie and see if he's got any comments or questions, and so we can help you all around this stuff. Charlie, anything from you? Just to give him a chance if you want it.
I'm muted, Charlie, if you don't know that.
You know, first of all, it's incredibly valuable.
Oh, yeah.
And what certainly struck me profoundly was the less positive nature of the student responses in contrast with the family responses. So it was really pretty heartening, even though was a smallish percentage, and we want to get a greater number of parents to respond. Another thing I'm struck by, though, is how valuable the continuity will be if we can really truly track all of this over time.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you
for
for
your
that.
work.
Anything else from anybody?
I just wish that you had been around when I taught fourth and fifth grade.
That's nice to be.
I think sometimes when people are filling out surveys, they see it as a time to vent about something.
Yes.
So sometimes I think that the negative is overemphasized in a survey format. I mean, I recognize that. It's challenging too with smaller sample sizes.
Yes.
Because I think that as someone who has looked at the data a lot, I feel like I can make an assumption. I'm like, oh, there's a consistent, like, there's one answer that's like, no.
Right.
So we can't change it, but it is, Panorama is sensitive enough where you really can drill down. It's anonymous. I can't tell who, but it's been a nice tool, especially again, when we think about, we've talked so much about academic learning and especially with reading and math, but it is nice to be dialed into, how kids are feeling about school. And Panorama also, I sound like a Panorama person, but one of the things that is nice about it is that the district has invested in something called Student Success, which is a massive platform of intervention ideas for students based on some of those challenges that they might be experiencing. And so through the CARES meetings, we are digging into that work, and it's exciting work.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Carol, I'm back.
Okay, great. Did you want to make a comment or ask a question before they leave us tonight?
Yeah, sorry, I just so I lost the video somehow. Only that it's all fabulously interesting, and I'd love to dig deeper. I'm still concerned that our comparative percentiles are so low compared to the other people who are using Panorama. Maybe over time that'll correct itself, because it doesn't seem like we're that low. I mean, I can't believe that we're really that low compared to the nation's schools. So I don't know if there's an anomaly here somewhere, or I don't know if you have any theories about why we're so low, or whether we just need to wait it out until next year and see it correct itself.
Now, the other part that maybe you heard, Charlie, was just that within the supervisory union, Westminster Center School was better than the average of what should we say?
Above our averages.
Above the average.
On that family
Well,
survey.
on the family survey, but I'm thinking the family survey, but also the math and the ELA scores, they were very low. So that just seems anomalous or worrying, either one or the other. So I'm not sure what your feeling about it is.
I would think it was exceptionally worrying if nothing was being done about it, but everything that's being done about it now is like very, very research based, like not a small research base. It is research based, and it is proven to be successful for students. So I think if it was like, oh, our scores are low and we're teaching kids to guess based on a picture, that would be a problem. But I think they're doing the work that needs to get done.
Of course, I agree that, but that it sort of implies that everybody else started the work earlier than us, because we played out.
I mean, I'll tell you, Charlie, our district started it 10 to 15 years ago, probably.
I see. So we're just way behind the curve here. Okay,
Yes.
then we'll see the fruit of our labors. That's, we'll look for the
And
fruit of the
actually-
labors.
New stuff that's they're using is like
Thank
the
you.
best of them.
Andy wants to add something.
I just wanted to add that, you know, Deb and Shelley have been with us just over a year.
Mhm.
And when they joined us in the district, we didn't have any of this in place. And, you know, you're looking at results that are in May and stuff of that nature. We were building the airplane literally as we were flying the airplane. I mean, in that sense, because when they came on, it was like, let's just figure it out now. And it was like, we didn't have all the tools in place. We were getting these tools last year. And so where we are right now, we have come leaps and bounds because we know what we need to do. We've got the right people in the place, and it's, you know, I think of it as the snowball effect, and that's the goal, is that we've got it figured out. I think we've got a good plan in place. And, you know, teachers are understanding. I almost said on board. I mean, it's because they're understanding what we're trying to ask them to do, and to understand they can see the data. It makes sense. And so it's usable for teachers. A lot of times we give teachers data and they go, you know, when you look at a map, it's the RIT score, right? And everyone goes, what's a RIT score? And they kind of go, okay, let's move on. And now we're actually using data to inform instruction.
So just one last question. When is the next tranche of data coming up that will show that this is working or has it starting to work? When should we expect that? Is it a year from now or end of the year?
Teachers will have a new batch in January.
In
January.
January for teachers, they'll start fresh. They're using data all the time though.
Yeah.
And then in the spring, we do have a review coming back here. We plan to come back here with spring results.
I see.
So
Okay, great. So we'll see something next year.
we'll see you again soon.
Thank
That's
you.
great. Maybe a related question, Liz, the 2 interventionist positions that were funded by ESSER, you've now proposed to be incorporated here. Are they a part of this team?
Yes, one is.
Okay.
The one is an academic interventionist and one is the SEL intervention.
Uh-huh. So when we get into the budget discussion, make sure all of us understand that. Okay. All right. Anything else you wish we'd be thinking about? Any requests for us?
I would just say you all are lovely to come and see. So thank you.
One second there.
Like Shelley said, this is a wonderful school to come into. It's a wonderful board to come and meet with. So thank you.
Yeah. Very welcoming. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you. You're welcome to stay. Speaking of, but we're gonna dive into the rest of the agenda. And you may also gracefully exit it.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And so next is principal's report. You can
Yeah.
build on all of that.
Sure. I know, I guess talk about all these other great things. So we currently have 144 students enrolled in Westminster, an average daily attendance of 95.1, which is steady, which what it's been.
I mean, bit up. 94, 95.
Yeah, so I guess it is up a bit.
And 95% our goal,
I
so good
I know, that's what we've been kind of hovering all year.
That's awesome.
Which is really great. Our safety drill this month was an egress drill, which is our standard fire drill where we exit the building quickly and quietly. Students and staff were super successful with this. They know just what to expect. It's one of our 5 different safety drills we do every month. Professional development that I've been kind of talking about will engage again next Wednesday. So our rotation, we've been leaning into the work of Anita Archer, which she's known for her work on explicit instruction. And so what we have done, and I probably have explained this before, but I'm just so proud of my staff for this. We meet every month and we engage in one of her DVDs on explicit instruction. So everyone from there picks one strategy that they're going to try with their students. It's like oral response, turn and talk, action response. And every adult in the building.
What's her name again?
Anita Archer.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so everyone in the building is trying something. Our nurse is trying a strategy.
I don't know how the nurse could get better.
I know, she is, it's really cool. And so then we meet the next month and they meet in PLCs, which teacher collaboration is a high leverage strategy. They meet in PLCs and reflect and share.
Professional learning.
Yes, yes. And they share what they've done. And then and that same day, after they share what they've done for the past 30 days, we engage in another Anita Archer PD, and we learn more strategies, and then we pick a new one. So this is our cycle that we're doing every half day. We have another one of those next Wednesday, which is, it's gotten, teachers who are like, I'm doing that thing. I'm doing, and whiteboard, they'll be like, I'll walk into a classroom and then whiteboards are our thing this month. So that's what we're trying. And so of course they're going to continue using whiteboards through the year, but something that they've just been either intentional about or new. A lot of the strategies are not, you don't need any new material. You don't need any new, it's just being mindful about it or being intentional about it, which then allows students to be more engaged. I mean, one thing that we're thinking, one strategy is like a hand signal when you want students to respond all at once, right? So then everyone's responding at the same time. So because if you don't give a hand signal or a cue to your students, you have your super quick processors who are answering first, and your kids who need 3 to 5 more seconds, maybe don't even, because it's already been said. So just things like that have been kind of permeating the whole building, which has been really exciting. Another event we're bringing back is our literacy cafe. So I'm not sure if you remember that. This is a special event that celebrates student authors who have been published in our school magazine, Imagination Soup. So we're bringing this back. I have yet to be part of the literacy cafe yet. So students submit work for review and go through an editing process to develop a well-crafted piece of writing. The Imagination Soup magazine showcases students' creative work in poetry, informative, narrative, persuasive writing, and then those whose work has been accepted to the magazine, they have a little reception in our library. It's turned into a French cafe, and they just celebrate their hard work, their perseverance, really digging into something and rewriting and reworking, which is hard for kids to do. So that's really exciting. Last Friday, we had, every other week, we have an all-school meeting. It's led by a different class every week, and it's really student-driven, and it models our morning meeting strategy. So they take us through, we open with our welcome song. They take us through a greeting, a share, activity that we do as a school, their morning message, and then, of course, we close with our school song. Our third graders, Miss Mayo's third grade class was last Friday. Miss Denise's is a week from Friday. And it's just a really wonderful way to be together as a school community. Another thing we're doing next, we do every morning of our half days, is we get together as connection crew. So this is just, each adult in the building has a small, 5 or 6 students that they connect with every morning of our half day. So it's planned by our connection crew committee. So the staff committee designs these activities. Last month we met and painted leaves together and wrote what we were grateful for. They were hanging around our building. Next Wednesday, we're going to make these snow globes, and those will also be hanging around our building. It's just a great way for kids to connect with an adult they might not see on a daily basis or might not know otherwise, and for adults to know more faces. The groups are mixed grades. So in I have a connection crew, and there's students from kindergarten through 6th grade in my group. Again, just another way to build community and work on that sense of belonging. And last but not least, December 22nd is our annual staff versus student hoop shoot. So this is where every student comes to the gym with a paper of something they've learned this year. And our 6th graders versus any staff who want to join, when it starts, you go to a student, you ask them what their question is. If you can answer it, then you get to take a shot in the hoop. And it's a lot of fun, and it's fast paced. It lasts about 5 minutes. The timer's on for 5 minutes. So and we usually get through all the questions in 5 minutes. And it's just a tradition we have before December break. So it's fun. Yeah. Any questions?
Concert, winter concert.
Winter concert will be January 18th.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought that the Thanksgiving was really cool. So
Yeah.
much fun.
Yeah, great. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, how did it go for you guys?
It felt really good. I mean, it was really nice to have the gym packed, and everything was delicious. And I want to work on ways to make it more, I would love students to take over like my roles of speaking, I would love students to take ownership of that. So that's kind of what we're thinking about for next year and giving our fifth and sixth graders more voice during the time. But I love the idea and the fact that students are part of every step of the process, from setting the tables to rolling the silverware to decorating the gym to cutting the vegetables.
I know they're so proud of like the decorations they made.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they're just so
Yeah.
pumped.
Also, the food was
I know.
really good.
I know.
I got a preview at least of the room.
Right.
Yeah.
You just didn't get the.
I
food.
couldn't-
I love the sixth graders still bring the desserts.
Right, that was new
Right.
this year. Yeah.
Serving is kind of a good, cool idea, like, serving, I like that. Can
Mm-hmm.
I ask you what time the winter concert? Is it at evening or
It's
during the
evening.
day? Or-
Yeah, I believe it's 6 o'clock.
Okay,
If I have 6:30,
6:30.
the 18th.
Okay, any other questions from this? We're gonna get to the core values when we talk about.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I saw that.
All right, all good?
Yeah, good.
So we'll now go into new business. This might be relatively quick. I think you know there's been a committee at the SU for the Wyndham Northeast Supervisory Union that took a look at the governing bylaws for all of the districts here and have worked on that actually for months. And the committee, the SU board has said now take it out to the schools because it's each school district that needs to take action to approve the bylaws from our point of view. You're looking kind of blank-faced around this. The bylaws
know.
I sent out.
Yeah.
Right.
I know.
Okay, and they're all consistent with the law. It's just establishes, how we function as a supervisory union with each of our school districts represented. So each district needs to vote to approve them. The SU board can't do that. So I would just entertain a motion that we approve the supervisory union bylaws as presented.
I will make a motion to approve the supervisory union bylaws as presented.
Okay,
Damn, I was muted. I was trying to beat you.
I was gonna leap into the fray, but
I leapt in, but I was on mute.
Yep. I really have an advantage being in person, Charlie.
You do, you do. There's a time lag.
motion on the floor.
motion on the floor.
Any discussion?
No.
Okay, all those in favor? We'll start with you, Charlie.
Aye.
Aye, okay. And uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Aye.
And
they're done that.
been there, done that. That's right. Karen's been through many discussions, as has team.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. So those are approved.
Great.
And now we need to hear from the other districts, but the next item of business is a pavilion update, and I sent out to you a revised analysis by Steve Horton. And I would entertain a motion that we accept the bid for a 20 by 24 pavilion by Tim Willis at a cost not to exceed $40,000. That would be the motion, and that would be consistent with Steve Horton's analysis.
I say yes.
Oh, you,
You
are
have
you
to
gonna
make- you
have a
have to make
motion on
a
the
motion.
floor?
She was just trying to beat.
Well, I have a question.
All right, with the motion that's on the floor from Karen, go ahead and you can discuss. Go ahead.
Oh, Lordy, now I've lost your video again. But anyway, so we did talk last time about asking the teachers what they felt about large or small. So I'm wondering if that had happened.
We asked the teachers what, please?
The question came up, would they think a big one was too big or a little one was too little? So what did they give any feedback about size?
We're comfortable with the size. I think once we walked out with more staff and measured it out, they were comfortable with it. Yeah, definitely.
And Charlie, I had a chance to walk it as well with Liz and with when we talked with Mandy afterwards. She was deeply involved. There's a lot of support for it. Yeah.
And would you like that design, Liz, the Tim Willis's?
Yeah.
And he
Okay.
changed it because his original recommendation was different.
He gave us options, and the problem with his bid before is that he gave us a range, and that's why we're limited in it. And he comes in at the lowest cost per square foot based on the 20 by 24 size.
Okay.
So it's the lowest bid, and it turns out to be one that the teachers actually really like. Okay, then that's the motion on the floor. So now we're ready to vote. Charlie, your vote on the motion.
I say aye.
Thank you. That was an aye?
Yes, he did.
Aye,
He said,
yes.
say aye.
Aye, aye.
All right. Aye. Uh-huh.
Aye.
All right, me too, unanimous. So that's done. Oh, Liz, you're gonna be excited to take that next.
That is exciting.
Okay, the solar update, since we last met and we had Andrew Cunningham with us, there was gonna be a meeting, Charlie, Margie and others, if you can report to us on that.
So we basically looked over some of the different spots that we might be able to do ground mounts or create a structure, parking structure, maybe with solar panels on top of that. And Andrew Cunningham is gonna get back to us with a couple of options. We narrowed it down to I believe two options, right? It was basically either a couple of rows on the west side of the parking lot, or maybe one row on the west side and one row on the south side, possibly one of those being lifted to park under. But he's just gonna get back to us with some of those numbers so that we can.
Margie, if I could just jump in, I have a slightly different recollection, which is I thought we said, let's put all this business about parking underneath the things to rest, not even go there, because there's it's much more expensive, and we lose generation power because the roof's going to be empty. So we just looked at regular non-parking structure arrays on the side of the parallel to School Street, and then at 90 degrees to that on what I think is the northwest side of the parking lot.
He was gonna price out the south side with the parking structure underneath it, right?
Yeah, I think I remember the conversation ending with the idea of a row by the dirt
Yeah.
that was ground mount. And then a row in front of these the trees that divide the garden, and we have to cut down the tree, or not cut them fully down, but trim them down. And have a row that is a carport of some sort.
Could be, he was
Potentially.
gonna price it carport and price it as just ground mounted.
Right.
He was
So
gonna
the-
compare those.
Okay,
Basically, it's
we'll see what he said, but that's not my memory of the conversation. But I thought we said let's not even bother with carports, because there's too many additional issues and they're not worth the money. Because I asked you the question, remember, is did we ever begin with any desire to have carports? And the answer was no, we didn't. The only reason carports came up was because we thought that was a good place to put solar panels. But I think they came up with better places to put solar panels, and so that we could just forget about carports altogether. That's my memory of the discussion. But we'll see what they come up with.
What he did say was that anything that we park under, any kind of canopy system, is far more expensive than just a ground mounted solar panel.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so we
Just going to give the pricing.
Yeah. And look at spots. We did not look at any spots in the playground. We only focused on the park.
Now, in a conversation, Margie and I had a conversation with Bill, is it McKinnon, by chance that morning. And he said, oh my goodness, the supervisory union is massively short of storage space. Why don't we put storage space underneath these solar panels? So I don't know if that idea survives, so that it would be parking outdoor equipment or something like that under there. But I'm going to say that I think we said we're not going to try and park cars under it. It's too complicated, too ugly, too expensive.
Well, yeah, so Bill, who's what's
My
his-
maintenance, yeah.
the maintenance person. He did exhibit, share the opinion that he needs storage. And was very into the idea of having solar panels atop of storage space. Charlie and I sort of felt like that was not what the board or what the voters had approved. But I will share that that's what he was very into and wanted, but
But there's solar panels and if they're, anyway, he's gonna give us money.
costs of what that would look like.
Right.
That's what you've done so
Right.
far. Thank
We'll
you very much.
compare it, and if it's way above budget, we'll just stay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
That's-
so
we're
I
not
asked him about timetable. I said, I know you won't be having anything for us by this board meeting, but is it possible you'd have anything for us by the January board meeting? And he said he would do his best. Maybe not January, but it's certainly February, which would give us time then to get ready to go in construction in May. Or thereabouts. But he said he would shoot for giving us a definitive quote in January.
Okay, well, thank you. And I think, for the minutes, it should be noted that the pavilion bid that was accepted tonight is paid for with reserve monies that were approved by the voters, and those were monies to enhance the outdoor learning environment and such. And the solar installation is out of reserve monies, but different monies, renewable energy monies, and added to the solar because it's dependent upon getting the new roof. That contract's been signed. Andy, you might be checking with Steve to see, unless Liz already knows, when are they gonna start on the roof, the gym roof?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
That's
So-
concerning.
Contract was signed a while ago, so
Yeah.
let's find out what the schedule
Yep.
is for that. Okay, good. I think we're set. Then the next item is the vision and the mission and the goals, and we have worked on that as a group, I think in October, actually. And we had talked to Liz about bringing to us also the core values that the team here works on. And so what you've got is the same version of the mission, vision, and guiding beliefs that we had before with that set of draft goals that we talked about in October. There's one new one, which is number 9. And Liz and I had a chance to talk at one point, and it just struck us that we weren't explicit enough in our goals, these being priorities that it helps Andy for us to have, to see what do we value here. So we value, nature-based and outdoor learning, and integrated arts, providing food for our kids, all of these things are important. And then we thought, oh my goodness, we better say that we want all the teachers and the staff to feel respected and supported and appreciated. So that's the only change to those from when we discussed it. Of course. I did send those around to everybody today. And then Liz, would you explain this one?
Yeah.
Sure. Andy, do you want to share it on the? Or
Yeah, I mean, what am I? Oh, your.
you want me to share it with you?
It's hers,
No,
yeah.
But, I mean, well, here, you provide, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
in the shared drive. Okay.
Great, so the circle over to the right that says community connection, community and inclusion is an image Janelle made for our school after we decided on these 3 core values. A few years ago, we did some core values work as a school. And then I used the analogy of the reading rope to say that we're weaving together both academic engagement and sense of belonging. And our ILT team and I brainstormed how we're doing all these things. And then on the next slide after this, Andy, before you go too far, there's just 2 slides, but on this one, it just links each goal that the board set and what we're doing as a school to support that goal.
And so the idea here, we can discuss it. The idea would be to have a motion on the floor to approve these revised mission, vision, guiding beliefs, goals, and the core values, and how they're going to be achieved. So that once it's approved by this board, then we can distribute it to parents, to others, to post it, but also it would be updated on the SU website, because under each of our schools, it says our school. And currently, it's the older version of this without the goals and without what the staff has done. There. Okay, that's the idea. So, let's do this. I'll entertain a motion to approve these documents, the mission, vision, guiding beliefs, goals, core values, and how we're going to achieve them.
I so move.
Charlie moved it. He got it done.
I got it,
All
man, I
right.
moved it. I can't see you all, but anyway, I hear you.
So
Oh,
there's a motion on the floor. Any discussion?
Looks great. It looks great.
It's just amazing how much goes on in schools.
Yeah, it
I
really is.
think, yeah. Is a lot of it, I think, feel like just the massive amount that goes on in school that isn't fully appreciated, or not appreciated, but fully seen, and I like, this puts it,
Yeah.
this is, shows a lot. It's great.
And I love how Liz and the team gave us examples of how each of these goals would be achieved, rather than them just looking broad and kind of, well, how are they gonna do that? You know, I got the details.
Cheryl, if I can just make one comment,
Please.
I just want to say, I really appreciate Liz and her team using the rope analogy, because one, it's consistent with what we're trying to do, but I think it also speaks to what Dean just said. How complex and everything that goes on in a school, but how it's all interwoven to, you know, to reach that goal and then the overall for the student. And so I just appreciate the visual. I like visuals because they really help, but I think it helps other people see how connected everything is. So.
Great. So there's a motion on the floor. Are we ready to vote? All righty, Charlie.
You said,
Yeah, that's an aye, huh? All right, thumbs up. All righty.
I,
Aye. And me too, unanimously approved our revised and new vision, mission, goals, etc. Exciting. And that takes us actually to director's comments. Yeah, we can wait. While you're chewing. Charlie, would you like to make some comments tonight? I hope
oh,
you feel-
yes. Sorry I couldn't be here tonight. I think I would have been coughing on you. So a lot to take in tonight, between the budget and the job cut-ins, presentation, and now these other policies and so on. I would just repeat that I hope that we see, we find out why at some point soon that we appear to be so low in the national comparison, which I think is probably wrong. But so the question is, will it just correct itself, or is there something else that we need to do to change that? And what I understood her to say is that we'll hear some new data in the spring, and that hopefully will reassure us that we're moving in the right direction.
Great, thank you. Team.
Just, I appreciate the reflection the school was doing and moving forward, like, it's a lot of work to make changes for everyone.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate that everyone's doing that work, and that seems like it's like people feel positive about the change, which is good.
Ready, Margie?
sure. I like hearing the data. I like having Deb come. That's really cool. And I like having some of the other interventionists give their kind of their feedback on the systems, because that's really interesting. I think that's, I had one other thing, but I totally forgot. I don't know. I'll think of that maybe. But
If you think about it,
yeah, I'll think of that.
okay.
I just say yes and again. How much I enjoy having other people here. When we've had some teachers here, it really reminds us of why we're on this board. So thank you for today.
I think, Liz, you and I talked about having the instructional leadership team come here at our meeting in January. January 4th would be the first meeting of the new year. So that'll build nicely on what we heard tonight as well. They can help us understand how they're really doing it here and what all of these, how it all fits together.
Yeah, and our K1 team is also looking forward to coming to talk about the U Fly, the new program that they've been doing in their classrooms. So
What is it? Say that again.
U Fly.
You fly.
That's the
University.
University of Florida.
Oh, sorry.
You.
I'm sure.
I don't know, we use it too. Yeah,
I was
I
thinking.
use it.
You fly.
Remember?
That's right.
It's an acronym.
Oh, University of Florida Literacy Institute.
Thank you so much. Okay.
It's a material.
They fly. So are they coming January 4th also?
No, I had them scheduled for tonight, but with Deb and Shelley, it was too much. So I'll probably February. I'll schedule them for February.
Okay. All right, that sounds good. And then, third direct, certainly Charlie, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to my director's comments. I unfortunately will miss next meeting because I'll be in sunny Spain. And the time change regrettably will make it impossible for me to join the meeting, so have fun.
That's in January.
Yep, southern Spain. It's lovely. I was there
Okay.
24 years ago and I'm going back.
We will miss you, understood.
Well.
Okay, well, hopefully Fact TV will be here, at least you'll be able to see
Oh,
There-
of course, I'll be tuned right in the next day.
when you can. And about the things I think I would add, I'm delighted that Deb and team came tonight, that was just super helpful. And then I want to stress the importance of our special meeting next Tuesday at 6 o'clock to dive into it. And Charlie, you're especially good with spreadsheets, so I think we have the electronic version of the budget, I think.
Yeah,
You
I
have
got it.
done that, Nicole, so, take a look at it, everybody take a look at it,
Yeah.
let's have our questions for both, for Jim, for Andy, and for Liz.
I will need to send, there's an attachment that I gave out tonight that Charlie does not have, so I'll send them electronically.
Okay, that would be.
Cheryl, if I could I ask a question to which I do not want an answer? But the question I'm going to ask next week is, where have there been discretionary changes in this budget as opposed to changes that are just dictated by things beyond our control? So where have we made choices to increase or decrease as opposed to health insurance going up? We didn't have any. So that's what I'm
Right.
really interested in.
Okay, thank you, and Liz, you've made a note of that. Yeah. All right, I think that's it. I think we can adjourn. All right, thanks, everybody, adjourning at 7:53. Wow. Thanks.
Thank you.
Time flies when you're having fun, yeah.
Excuse me.
Hey, how's the preschool going?